those people.
All right, guys, we are live here at the Western Bass Shootout. This is Business from the Bass Boat Podcast on the Serious Angler Network, powered by X2. And guys, it's here. It's finally happening. We're excited to be here. We've got Rick Pierce with Bass Cat Boats. We've got Jeremy with you're with Wild West Team Trail as well as Apex.
Yeah.
And man, it's all coming together. How's this for you guys? Or how's this been, this process leading up to this point?
Yeah. You want to take this? You want me to?
I'll let you roll.
Just get a little bit closer there.
Yeah, this has been about over a 5-year process of coming to this point. It's something we had thought about many years ago, and so it's kind of nice to see it come to fruition and starting the first Western Championship. And Jeremy, back several years ago, we came together at an event and set this in stage on where we wanted to go. And he took it. He ran with Apex. He's running with this. And so we're right here behind him trying to push, and everything's going.
That's fantastic. And I just know, I mean, from previous interviews with you, Rick, and as well as talking to Ken, and just this has been a long time coming. It's cool to see it finally, the fruition happening. The event center, the expo looks fantastic. I know there was a little bit of hiccups. It sounded like we had to change takeoff locations, right? You want to talk a little bit about what happened there?
Yeah, so with California finally receiving an abundance of water, which is a good thing, it brought all 4 lakes that feed into the Sacramento River to our launch site. So that was Discovery Park originally planned, about 1.5 miles from this location, and so we had to relocate with the assistance of California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and allowing us to take some further precautions and ideas and implement those to go to a different ramp. So that worked out well. It is going to be a unique situation with all of the traffic in from the new facility at the Kings location, making the playoffs. And so it's going to be fun. It's going to be great. But yeah, all the changes at last minutes really come together well, and appreciate everybody coming through and helping us get to that point.
Fantastic. I know. The anglers, they're not bringing their entire bag here. Is that correct? So what's going to look like on the weigh-in stage? I know I've heard a drive-through weigh-in. What are things going to look like from that perspective when anglers get back into Sacramento?
So if everybody wants to go out and watch the takeoff in the morning, be at B&W Marina, safe flight, and from there they'll fish through the day. It actually saves them some travel time on the water, which is a good thing. Right. And then they'll check in at 2 o'clock. First flight will be in at 2, and it will be drive-through weigh-in. They will weigh their entire bag of fish there. That's 5 total. And then they will bring their 2 largest fish with a security escort through the Delta area up to the convention center here. And we will do a display with a big show production on stage here. So their 2 biggest fish will be there, and we will call their weight. So it's known publicly to everyone here.
Got it. Okay. And I know it's been talked about a bunch at this point, but I think just for people tuning in to break down, I know the Western anglers, it seems like to me, there's some crossover, but there's a lot of guys that fish a trail, right? They fish one bass, and they're one bass guys. They're Toyota Series guys. They're Wild West Team Trail guys. You know, it seems like that has always been a thing to me out west. There's a good amount of anglers, but everyone kind of chooses their path. Rick, did you want to talk a little bit to what this kind of does? I feel like it's kind of setting a precedent. We haven't seen much where crossover between trails too much, in my opinion.
No, we this is new and something we want to do out here, because you got about 6 trails that have a higher entry fee, and that's sort of what we did. We set an entry fee guideline, and so we picked the 4 trails that had the highest entry fee guideline.
Okay.
And so that's kind of what it came to, and that's why the Toyota Series is involved in it. Obviously, one bass, the Western side, the U.S. Open is the marquee event for the West. Mm-hmm. And so certainly one bass fell into that. And then the Pro-Am side of Wild West with the pro side, that definitely fell into that. And then Apex was created for that. Okay. So Apex was created to be a West Coast Pro Tour, basically a semi-pro tour. So it's the 4 things that we had out here that paid the highest entry fee. And so we really appreciate all the guys coming out supporting that. I mean, we went as low, and Jeremy can expand on this too, but I think we went as low as 17 places on a few of the events, and then on the Anglers of the Year. And then we went down to 23 on the Apex, I believe. So we really got there pretty quick. We had some conflicts. People couldn't make it. Obviously, it's an entry fee, so they've got to pay an entry fee. But it gives us a true West Coast championship, and we're just excited to get it off the ground. And it was really good because we weren't able to get 50 guys to come play at this level, and so that was pretty solid.
That is, and I think it's just great to see. I believe there's a couple dual qualifications as well, right? Where maybe there was that crossover between a high level angler finishing in the top 10 on both series. There, do they just then choose, or how does that work when there's someone in that?
But actually, it worked out pretty well.
Just a little forward there.
Sorry, it actually played out a little bit in favor to help the guys further down the field and in the Wild West Pro-Am side. So, yeah, it opened up the doors, as we went down to 17th place, and then yes, of course, finishing up with the Apex group. So it's there'll be some twists and turns with this as far as its traditional event, but it also has some ability for tracking, live tracking. We'll have camera boats on the water all 3 days. So there'll be updates through Tourney X program as well. So they'll be learning all those features. It won't be as the same format as Apex because this is traditional, but it allows the fan base, the viewership, and some interaction to go forward through all the day during the event.
Fantastic. Yeah. I think this is just such a groundbreaking thing. And that's why I was glad to do this live. It's just, something like this on the West Coast, to have a championship of this caliber, to me, and bring in this group of anglers. I mean, it's super exciting, and I can't wait to watch it all come together and who's going to be crowned champion at the end of this thing.
You watch them all come through the photo line, get their pictures taken. Everybody's having a conversation. They're all getting along, and it's 50 guys that really kind of know each other. The crossover's not that much.
Yeah.
It's very few of them that cross over, but it gives them a chance to compete against each other, know each other, and so the relationships they're building here are really good. So everyone's here to bring it forward, and that's really the purpose of it. Is grow it and grow the West and bring it forward, and they're all in on it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Can you guys talk at all? I know, Jeremy, have you been talking to any of the anglers during practice, or any thoughts on the fishing, what we're going to see over the next 3 days as far as a total weight goes? I know the Delta has had a tough year with all the rain that has been here and that kind of a thing, but are you expecting big bags? Just, are we approaching that time of the year where fish are going to be spawning and it's going to be a good event?
Yeah, we're, perfect time of year to have an event here on the Delta. That's why we picked the date after working through the Red Crest and the Bassmaster Classic dates, and so it worked out well. And you can't ask for a better time frame. But I think we'll be seeing some 10+ pound fish coming across the scales every day. So.
Wow, that's exciting. I mean, such a historic place when it comes to the fishing world. The California Delta, such a vast waterway. I mean, the first time I came to the Delta, I got out there and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna run over and look at this, and then it took me 20 minutes to get over there, and then you go to this, and it's just you could run out of gas so many times over doing laps on this place. It's a fun place, Rick, to also to test a boat's capabilities. A lot of hard turns and narrow passageways for sure.
Yeah, it's going to burn some gas, but it's a lot better than they would have been coming out of Discovery. So they've gained a little ground there and a little bit of the run. A few of the guys were wishing they were going out of Discovery. Others are glad they're going where they're going. But it's going to work out either way. We're going to crown a champion. And like Jeremy said, it's just a great time to come to the Delta. We don't know. When you looked at the pictures, and they'll run that gallery of pictures of a little tote board of what they think's going to be caught. And I looked at Hayden's, and I think Hayden had, I'm not going to quote me on this, but I think 47 pounds. And so Hayden's either sandbagging or
really sandbagging, or he's he's
or it's that tough, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you looked at some of them, and the weights were pretty low.
Yeah.
So, they seem to be in the 50-pound range. I think it's going to be better than that, but we'll find out.
No doubt. And it seems, just thinking through the Toyota Series event that was here earlier this year, I fished that, and it was just like there was a switch that happened on the second day, and there was really big bags brought in that second day, but it was hard to maintain that weight over the 3 days, right? There were some good 25-pound bags weighed in, maybe even a little bit higher than that. Couple 8 to 10 pound fish in that class, but then it dropped off. It was just one of those deals. It was a really tough time. You landed on those big females moving up, and some guys did, and most guys didn't, kind of a thing. So I think it'll be better than that for sure. And I'm excited to see how guys break it down this week. I noticed too, just driving on my way in here, water clarity? Still there's a lot of that dingy water everywhere.
There's a lot of water moving in the river here and everywhere down on Delta. And, they've certainly had high water conditions, and it's going to play into it. We ate on the river the other night, and when you looked at the river marker, it was like 13, 14 foot higher than where it is now at high water. So there's been a lot of flow come through this place, and still a lot of flow coming through it. So it's going to be interesting to see how it develops.
Right. And it's just something out west, something that you don't think about across other places in the country, but it has been a historic snow year. I mean, we are just the amount of snow in Tahoe and all these mountain ranges around here. It is all just going to continue to melt. I mean, it's just going to be, but it's been good for the West because you see Shasta having issues with water and all these things. And my gosh, now it's just boom or bust, right? Now we're in a boom cycle.
They're talking about parts of the Sierra Madre's not getting opened up until July.
That's insane.
They're talking about second story windows got put out by snowfall. I mean, my gosh.
Yeah,
unreal. So there's going to be a lot of water flowing all year, and certainly California needed it, and certainly the West Coast needs it. I wish a little more flow down to the Colorado River.
Right.
Yeah,
we could divert it straight down.
Divert it right into Meade. It'd be nice, right. But Powell. But certainly they need it. But that's probably the only thing that really didn't get what everyone else got.
Yeah, totally. And I, on my way out for that previous Toyota series, I, for some reason, thought it would be a good idea to try and make a friend's bachelor party in South Tahoe. That was in March. I came through, and I'm from Colorado. We have a lot of snow. He was skiing up there. That was the whole deal. So I'm coming through, and I have never seen this kind of snow. I mean, stop signs covered, right? 2-lane roads were 1-lane roads. Horrible place to tow a boat. Made a huge mistake bringing a boat through there. I had to back up so many single lane roads. And then a storm it was nice when I was there. A storm was coming. I called the highway department, and they're like, well, do you have a dual axle trailer? I said, yeah. They said, you're going to have a chain on it if you don't leave right now. And I was like, all right, sorry. And I left the bachelor party and headed further down. But
you made it over the hill, though, apparently.
Made it over the hill. We made it all right. And
That's good.
It was, man, I have never seen that much snow in my life. I mean, just incredible to see. And I can see how there's houses caving in and all kinds of stuff because that is a serious amount of moisture. Yeah, well, Rick, I wanted to bring up too. I know off air we've talked a little bit about the Western market when it comes to bass boats, but it seems like to me you're seeing some opportunity here as far as there's always been opportunity out west, but it seems like there's a push. Do you feel like the sport is growing out west right now from I guess it's always been here, but do you feel like there's new interest because of COVID? What do you have any idea of some of the reasoning?
I think that there's been a multitude of pushes that have happened over the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Okay.
And we're seeing some growth because of that. And COVID definitely helped. But don't forget, COVID helped everywhere. Right. It didn't help any different here than it helped in New York. And so it's the same for the West as it is for the East or the South even. And there's a lot more people fishing because of COVID. But I think on the West Coast, we've seen growth in bait sales, growth in tackle, growth in actual boat sales. And there's growth in fishing licenses. So I think the West Coast has definitely made a growth factor that when what used to be considered the West Coast was included Dakotas. Today it doesn't include the Dakotas.
Okay.
The Dakotas are kind of a walleye market. They consider that. So it kind of falls off west of the Dakotas. And that west of the Dakotas line running down through Texas, right now that growth pattern, we're seeing it grow and probably grown about 20%.
Wow.
I think it's the biggest share that's ever been in my lifetime.
Wow.
So,
that's incredible.
Yeah, it's really doing some good things. And you mentioned Colorado.
Yeah.
Colorado alone in boat sales had a 240% growth.
Wow. That's massive. And that's my home state. That's really cool to see. I will say that I have seen a lot more bass boats around, a lot newer bass boats around. Like generally just when you're talking one of these outskirt states from the bass fishing world, right? We have a lot of older boats just in the market because there's just less guys fishing competitively at that higher level getting those boats. But I will say on our lakes, I have seen more and more, newer boats and more boats just in general. Our tournaments are more anglers.
Yeah, I think Colorado's had the strongest growth out west.
Wow.
And, California's resurged a little bit and Arizona has as well, certainly. But even, Montana, Wyoming, right on up through Idaho, we're seeing growth factors in all the states. Probably the only one we're not seeing a big growth factor in is Nevada. which
Okay.
that's the issue of mead, so there's no
Sure.
doubt that's part of the issue, but that's one of the reasons, Adam, we drove them over to Mojave.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to push because the closest thing to water for Las Vegas is Mojave.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not going to Mead, you're going to Mojave. That's the next closest.
Right.
And so Mojave's a wonderful fishery.
Oh.
It's a time of year to be there. They're going to be spawning. Anybody in Vegas right now, you need to hook them up and go to Mojave. It's just really a great place.
It is. Out of that chain, I've spent some time both on Mead, Mojave, and Havasu, of course, those 3 in a row. And I would have to say my favorite, bar none, out of those is Mojave. It's got some really big fish in it. It can get really windy, and I think that protects the place to some extent as far as just pressure. It's also pretty, once you're there, it's pretty desolate. You know what I mean? As far as it's a incredible natural desert lake. It's beautiful.
It's a destination,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so clear. I mean, and you hear about the Colorado River being so clear, but Mojave's, I've never seen anything clearer than Mojave. I mean, I've seen a smallmouth in 30 feet of water swimming down there. It's just like,
it's what it used to look like back home.
really?
Yeah,
No
you
way.
could see 60, 70 feet on Bull and North Fork years ago.
No way.
Yeah.
So what made that water get dirtier?
I think more just population growth, potassium, sulfates in the water, phosphates,
Sure.
a little bit of everything coming out of what happens when people live in a place,
Yeah, but I had no idea that it used to be that, because you've always heard
I
clear.
can remember.
But it used to be
I had
really
a buddy
clear.
played for the U of A, played baseball for the U of A, and we took him one day, and I showed him a pine tree on its side and 75 foot.
75 foot.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
It used to be really clear. Now, this time of year, it gets clear when the water's rising.
Right.
But then when it falls down, all the contaminants, all the, moss and growth and everything, it'll change and the water will get dirty again.
Wow. I had no idea. That's really cool to see, or to hear about anyway. And it makes you think, like, what was this place like 75 years ago? Or like, for 35 years ago, like how much more clear everything was. But something that is always cool about Western fisheries, I think, is just that clear water perspective. And a place like this, I mean, where we're at the Delta, it's kind of it's interesting because you have that almost Florida tannic water in some areas. It seems to me you get that like tannic tinge. Now I think it's going to be a little bit dirtier than past events here, past coverage of events from that perspective. But I think there's going to be some really big fish caught. I think, coming here, I jumped out in my truck and pollen was everywhere. It just feels right. Like, it feels like spring, feels like stuff's going to go
happening.
down. Yeah. I mean, super exciting from that perspective. So this tournament in itself, we've got Friday, day 1 and day 2, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday. What is the field getting cut to for Sunday?
Be cut to top 10.
Okay. 10 guys, traditional 5-fish format.
That's correct.
Okay. And as far as the qualifications, we talked about this bringing the trails together, but it was how many anglers from each of those different leagues?
Originally, it was 20 anglers from Apex,
Okay.
10 anglers from Wild West Pro-Am.
Okay.
On the pro side, 10 from Western Bass and 10 from MLF.
Okay.
The series.
Fantastic. Awesome. And I know that the goal with this is to make it a multi-year event, from that perspective. How has that, I understand we're getting through the first year, right? But will that event, is the goal to have it change locations? Will it always be kind of a Delta situation? What are your guys' thoughts there at this point?
I think I'll let Rick go expand upon that, because the Sacramento area is where we wanted to start based on, just growth in the industry.
Yeah, Jeremy's got that right. The growth of fishing in California, the majority of fishermen, they circle around the Bay Area. So they're San Francisco. You can go down to Bakersfield, Folsom, and you get north up to Redding, and the bulk of the fishermen are here. So we wanted to drag them out and drag them into it. So we wanted to start, we had the biggest nucleus, and that's the biggest nucleus in the West is in this circle. So Sacramento, sitting right where it's at, having a great facility, close to the river at the time, was turned into the Delta now. So it's changed a little, but that was the reason for coming here. We'd like to do it here again. We think we've got that. It's been a little difficult for us. I mean, the Sports Commission has been great, but they've had a lot going on. They just finished this complex. When we first started talking to them, this complex was not completed. It was still under reconstruction.
Wow.
So we've been working with them a long time. And then they had other things. They've signed some other agreements.
Yep.
and they've been busy with other agreements. And then you've got the Kings in the playoffs. So that's changed they changed their whole complexion, you know.
For sure.
So they've got a lot going on in the area as a sports commission. So, you know, definitely we'd like to work with them again. And then is it going to other areas? We database, you and I talked about this some, Adam, we database the West Coast. So we know where we can take it.
Right.
And we're looking at other locations to take it to.
Yeah. Fantastic.
So, this year, next year, certainly we want to try to stay here if we can.
Sure.
And then we'll see where it goes.
Awesome. Well, it's good to hear. And I think it's a resurgence to me anyway on the West Coast. I'm actually personally just actually about to make a move to Idaho. And part of
devil you.
I'm pretty excited about it.
You're gonna go over and stroke some big smallmouth.
That's exactly right, Rick. I fished a tournament earlier this year up on Coeur d'Alene. And on Pond de Rey as well. And then also got to see a couple other lakes in that region. And I said, oh my gosh, this place is incredible. But it's been in my head, I've always kind of struggled with the West Coast as far as tournament fishing goes compared to the East. And to me, with events like this, and just as we keep seeing a growth in a quote unquote more professional angler scene, right? From a standpoint, everyone here is wearing a jersey. I mean, it's been a very professional level event. It got me excited to stay and venture further west, you know, from that perspective. And I just hope that continues and we continue to see anglers in the West follow events like this and try and qualify for them.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, we've got plenty of people following what we're doing out here. I mean, Chase at Bass, all the people at Bass are aware of what we're doing. I mean, Jim and Boyd and Kathy at MLF.
Yeah.
Certainly they're aware of what we're doing. We've had conversations with all of them. So definitely everyone's following us. Everybody's watching us. I want to say that's been great to the vendors that are here that have came out to support this first year. Now, coming out on first year, it's a lot.
It's a risk.
It's a risk, right? And so certainly thank you to all of the vendors that have came out, every one of them. And this is a goal. We've said this before. Wild West and Bass Cat Boats can't grow the West. We all got to do that together.
Yeah.
So this is an effort to get us all to try to do that. And we're obviously making some ground.
For sure.
And we want to see it grow. Basically, we want to see the growth of market and bait sales out here and boat sales to grow. Realistically, we think the goal we have, Adam, is to grow at about another 80%.
Wow.
So we think there's a lot on the table to almost double it almost.
Wow. So there's a lot of opportunity just to feel like, I mean, that's kind of, I feel like you look at things across the country and you can only grow so much in the Southeast and so much in the South Texas region and all these different places. But there's basically the opportunity to move the numbers significantly somewhere like this.
We have the population base out here.
Right.
Oh,
Okay.
sure,
Okay.
So
that's a
the
big
population
factor.
base is here, and it's in the east too.
Right.
And
Like the
certainly
Northeast, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Northeast, certainly there's population base. So we've got opportunities. Both areas have got great fisheries.
Yeah.
So
World-class fisheries.
World-class fisheries. And part of that's because they don't have the pressure.
Sure.
I mean, they think they do in some cases. I mean, you go to Gunnersville or Rayburn, that'll change your ideas.
Right. that highway between Toledo Bend and Rayburn, I have never seen so many bass boats in my life.
Yeah.
Ever. Every vehicle had one.
Yeah, there's not a weekend on Rayburn. There's not 200 boat tournaments almost.
Yeah. And then 600 boat high school tournament.
Oh, yeah. That's a common deal is, 567 boats last year in the Texas East Regionals, man.
Don't they have in the big bass events over 1,000 plus?
Oh yeah. Those big those things are. It's crazy. I mean, I guess that's the only way to do that is to have multiple ramps and one of those because they all launch. They don't all launch at the same time.
Right.
It's not a controlled takeoff, right?
Right.
But there's a lot there, and certainly we know we can do more over here.
Yeah.
And so we're excited to see that come together. And I mean, will it be Texas or Alabama? That's probably not there. But if we could get the West to be Texas,
right.
Get the West to be what Texas is,
right?
That'd be a win-win for all of us.
I agree. And I think, like you're saying, everyone needs to kind of to pitch in with stuff like this, and just the industry as a whole, I think, has to push. Like you're saying, it's a rising tide raises all ships, right? So
we're really pushing. We want everybody from the Yamaha outboards to Skeeter to Ranger and any of the rest to come out and help us and join. And let's get this to come together.
Yep. Awesome. Awesome. And I think too, one thing about the West, there's obviously these famed fisheries, right? The Delta, Clear Lake, Shasta, some of these places. Havasu, Mojave is a little bit of a sneakier one.
Columbia
Mead,
River.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Columbia River.
Exactly. And I mean, but there are so many places. As I look at a map, when I start thinking about and then doing a little bit of research in Idaho, in Oregon, in Washington, I mean, there's some of these places. I mean, even Colorado, New Mexico. There's some cool places just all across the West that I feel like what is cool with the Apex Tour is you guys run into some of those places with a smaller field size, right? You can go to some of those maybe smaller venues from a standpoint because there's not necessarily that big city next to it, but there are some really cool destination lakes.
It's a very inviting location on Columbia River. We have very great partners for the Apex Series on up and down the river, Oregon, Washington. So they ask us to come back every year, and they book it that right then. So
Really,
we'd like to expand a little bit further out, but we want to be loyal to a loyal base as well. So.
right. And I like the thought process of starting in a nucleus. I mean, where your sportsmen are out west. I mean, such a historic place, and there's just, I mean, not even just bass fishermen. I mean, there are so many fishermen in this area that'll run out into the bay and that kind of a thing. I mean, I just talked to folks and they're talking about salmon stuff and they're talking about, I mean, the striper stuff.
Oh,
and there's all kinds of
sure.
action.
Yeah, there's plenty here to do.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, and so it's great. But you go into Idaho, you'll probably drift over to Fort Peck some too.
Right. I'm excited about that place. No, and that's one of those. I fished a Bass Nation Federation back in the day on Noxon Reservoir in Montana, and that's just a section of the river that actually pours into
Snake
Ponderosa.
over there. Yeah.
Yep. And it was incredible. I mean, just the wildlife was just incredible. But I'd love to go a little further east. Now I have heard the only problem with Peck is Fort Peck is it's 30 miles of gravel. So you better drive it slow or have some flaps because it's a long ways to go on gravel. But world class, just like some of these other places as far as a small.
There's a lot of stuff hidden out here. It's just like when they went to Trinity, Whiskey Town, there's some stuff up here. It's just really awesome fisheries. And they don't have any pressure.
And they're big. That's the thing too. You get to them, and I think because the Western land base, you look at it and you see mountains. And I'm talking when you're looking on a map, but you get to some of these places and you look at lakes in the east, and of course we've got way more water in the east, so we have these really big fisheries. But you look at the Columbia River, you look at here. I mean, you can run out of gas on plenty of these lakes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. No, well, go ahead, Rick.
That's good. I mean, of course, I'm from Arkansas, so I fished everything that you've been on. And, you talk about clear water. First time I went to Mead, I caught a fish 28 feet deep on a bush. I was fishing. I saw the bush. I didn't see the fish hit it, but I was watching the bush. And, Mead used to be clear. So these waters have all changed a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Angling out here has never been as popular as far as the number of the percentage. So we had more anglers,
sure,
but not the percentage of it. So I think it's really good to see what's happening.
Yeah, that's incredible to hear. And what I like something with Rick, you're always looking at the data from an angler standpoint, a boat sales standpoint, but just seeing how trends are. And I think that's a good way to look at things because data doesn't lie. Like numbers don't lie at the end of the day.
Numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
So we're good with it, and I think it's great. And Jeremy, I really can't say enough about him. Just like these vendors that pulled in here and what he's done, pulling it together, and really appreciate everything. Like Brand Benzile and Billy at One Bass, and certainly everybody from the Toyota side with them participating with us and really supporting us the best they can.
Yeah.
And, we pull this together and have it again next year and do the same thing.
Yeah. For sure.
No doubt. And I think the side we haven't talked about yet, but a lot of those anglers on, for instance, on the Toyota Series side, this year it's a little different. It's a little bit nicer because the championship's at Table Rock. So it's not quite as far to the east, but a lot of times it's at Gunnersville. It's further east. And when you're talking, I mean, there's a long land mass from here to anywhere over there. I mean, you're passing 24 hours, 25-hour drive.
There's a hill and a desert between here and there.
And there's a size to that hill in that desert, but you're right. It's just a hill and a desert. Awesome. Well, guys, as of now, I guess for the following year, for folks interested in 2024, right now is the format similar from a qualification standpoint of the top 10s and that kind of a thing? Is that?
Yeah, Rick and I have discussed that quite a bit, and I think eventually it'll open up a little bit further.
Okay.
And that's the goal as part of building the West Coast scene. There's some unique opportunities there, and Discount Tackle coming on board as a title sponsor that helps tremendously as we have a good footprint moving forward with those anglers coming in and providing that. So.
Yeah, we've got a plan where we can take it to 55 anglers on the initial side.
Okay.
And that plan's been laid out, and Jeremy and I have discussed it, and we know how we're going to try to do that. There's always going to be an amount of controversy when you make changes to something.
Yeah,
sure.
But certainly we're prepared to face that controversy. We think we're making the right decision for the West Coast. This is all being done for the West Coast. It's not being done for the people on the Toyota Series or the people in One Bass or the people in Wild West or the people in Apex. Yeah. It's being done for the West Coast.
That's right.
So we're going to make decisions based around what we need to do for the West Coast, and we're going to grow it based on that. And we've got the capability with the current decisions we've made to go to a total of 55. And so after we get past that, if we grow it further, then we'll just, if more people get to where they can position themselves to come in and we get growth, then certainly we'll look at doing something different. And we've discussed that also and ways to do that. And it could even be, Adams, where we came into a cut down or sooner, and a pre-tournament event or something.
Yeah, I see.
So there's a lot of ways to do it, but we primarily don't think we can do, this is our conversation as late as last week. We don't feel like we can do more than 55 people at this type format.
There's a lot of logistics involved with it.
And to me, I've always enjoyed that about the Classic, or call it even the Bass Nation Championship, right? Where at least the current setup of it, of being, a 55 boat field. I mean, I just have always thought that you get more spotlight on the anglers that are there in that smaller group. And I feel like you've worked really hard against larger fields to get to that championship. I've always liked that smaller field feel of a championship event rather than having a 300 boat championship out east and that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So great. Well, guys, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time out. We'll go ahead and wrap this up here, but excited to get this weekend kicked off. We'll have plenty of stuff on the Serious Angler Network, guys, as far as coverage goes. Be watching our social from that perspective. But Rick and Jeremy, just wanted to say thank you guys for doing all you're doing for the West, and excited to see how this all shakes out, being some history on the West Coast.
For sure. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for coming, Adam.
Absolutely, guys.
Yep.